The winners were recorded on statues around Olympia. Their names were even used in the Greek calendar.
They named their years after Olympic winners. For the Greeks, an event was dated, the year in which such and such won.
The games continued for 1200 years, until the Christian emperor Theodosius, in 394 AD, abolished them as a pagan event. Now the Olympic flame has been rekindled, and every 4 years, a torch is carried from Olympia to the modern site of the greatest show on earth. But just as spectacular were the myths of the ancient Greeks, and there was no greater story than the lost world of Atlantis. The idea of Atlantis originates from the writings of the Greek philosopher Plato. He wrote about a utopian world that became corrupted and, as punishment, destroyed. No one has ever resolved whether the Atlantis myth was a moral allegory or an historical story. But the search to find this lost civilization has persisted ever since. And the events, which once struck a ring of islands in the eastern Mediterranean, have long been considered the inspiration of the Atlantis legend. 3,500 years ago, an island volcano in the Aegean Sea erupted. The explosion left behind a vast bay beside the Greek island of Santorini. Had this been the destruction of Atlantis? To try and find out, archaeologists are examining the layers of volcanic strata on the island, which have preserved a picture of how life was before the eruption.
Right here, ground zero. This is ground zero. Man lived on that surface. Man walked that surface. Man built a city on that surface. Here is a residue of man, what appears to be a broken field wall by man on that surface. And then came the pumice, down rained pumice, piece by piece, particle by particle, burying that landscape, knocking a tree down. That's the remnant of a tree. It's now a hole because the wood is rotted away. And then the eruption continued with tens of feet of more pumice and ash.
A tantalizing glimpse. But who were these people of Santorini? And are they a key to discovering the Atlantean race Plato described? He wrote of a great island power. At its center, a massive city built on concentric circles of land and water. And at its heart, a citadel full of spectacular treasures. Was Plato's circular city inspired by the round volcano which had erupted beside Santorini? The link between Atlantis and the island of Santorini hit the headlines in 1966, when a Greek archaeologist working on the southern side of the island uncovered some of the most beautiful works of art ever to be found at an ancient site.
What was found was an unbelievably well-preserved town. This was due to the fact that that specific settlement was buried under the ash of the volcano. This layer of ash is somewhere near 8 or 10 meters, so it's quite a thick deposit, which means that 2- and 3-story buildings were actually preserved within this layer.
But the most revealing discovery was of a wall painting. It represented a map of Santorini, and in the middle, it featured the volcano island before it erupted.
It shows a profile of the island, 1, 2, 3 peaks. Those 3 peaks we see today. Going down farther, we see a waterway that surrounds a central island, a fairly large island, and on that island, a city. The impression one gets from this painting is a society that was able to have a large city on a small island, but they had a culture that would allow more than subsistence living. It allowed a large city to develop here and be supported by trade, exports and imports.
Plato had talked of an island civilization, and if the wall painting is to be believed, then perhaps it was that civilization that had once prospered here in the bay.
Where we're sailing right here, we'd be bumping ashore
3,600 years ago against an island. And then if we believe that wall painting, we wouldn't just be bumping into an island, we'd be bumping into a little city that was sitting right here.
And the wall painting is our closest representation as to how that city might have looked.
It's amazingly impressive. They are showing the landscape, the boats, the costumes, the people, 3,600 years ago in the late Bronze Age. It's a snapshot of a past life.
The painting bears an instant similarity to Plato's description of the circular city of Atlantis. But the people who had built it had no idea of the dangers that threatened to destroy them.
There hadn't been any big major eruptions in this part of the world for thousands of years. So I don't think they had any concept of what a volcano was.
The eruption began with a cloud of ash. The inhabitants on the adjacent island of Santorini fled for their lives as tons of volcanic rock erupted from a huge fissure.
It goes up to 15 feet thick, this pumice, as it piled up. Well, before it ever got to 15 feet thick, they were gone. I mean, they left quickly. And that was a smart thing to do, because then it became a huge explosive eruption.
Water from the sea flowed into the crack on the island volcano.
You want an explosion? Mix water with rising lava, and you've got a disaster. We had a disaster here. There's a plume here rising up perhaps 25 miles, and everything that's on that island is incorporated into that plume.
The islanders of Santorini watched the island city vaporize. The volcano then collapsed back on itself, leaving a massive hole over 900 feet deep.
That hole is called a caldera. It was filled by the ocean, and this provides this dramatic landscape today.
The Atlantis legend lives on as marine archaeologists continue to search for signs of a lost city beneath the sea. And the catastrophic events which struck the island of Santorini have ensured that Plato's puzzle remains indelibly written into history. The ancient Greeks were able to match their extraordinary legends with their own achievements. They developed the skills to build the greatest wonder of ancient Greece. It is an icon of perfection, an architectural inspiration. The Parthenon. On the Acropolis, the sacred hill overlooking the city of Athens, the Parthenon was built as a symbol of success. It has stood strong for 2,500 years. The story of how it came to be built is as remarkable as the design of the building itself.
This glorious new building that was arising from a field of ruins was a symbol to the Athenians. It told them that after their near annihilation by the Persians, they were now in charge. They were on the way up, and this was their reminder.
The Parthenon would be no ordinary temple. Its exquisite proportions on the outside would be matched by its interior, with splendid carvings and colored reliefs. But the two men responsible for its construction would face fierce criticism. Phidias was appointed master of works. He was the most famous sculptor of his day. Pericles was the Athenian statesman who commissioned the building. It was part of a vast regeneration program conceived by Pericles to transform Athens, to make it stand as an exemplar to the rest of the Greek world. It was a great idea, but how would he fund it?
The money that was used had been contributed for the war against Persia by Athens' allies. The war had gone so well, not all the money was needed. So much of it was now diverted to the Parthenon, and Pericles' opponents used this. This was a disgrace. This was Athens misbehaving in the eyes of the other Greeks.
Ignoring the political attacks, Pericles raided the war chest and started to build the Parthenon. At 101 feet wide and 228 feet long, it called for thousands of tons of expensive marble. The glittering stone, as it was called, was selected from the quarries that still remain